What's up, Gator Nation? Welcome into the Gators Online show. Zach Abaverdi and Nick Del Torre here. And talking season has arrived. SEC Media Days is here. That means football is right around the corner. And we can just feel it. It's different once this kicks off. We had some other conferences start their media days over the last week. But once the SEC gets going, Nick, it becomes real. And it's in Dallas this year. So switching up the scenery, obviously, with the Longhorns and the Sooners joining the conference. So we will talk about that on this episode, preview Florida's trip to Dallas, what we expect the Gators to be asked about. And then we cannot go on this show without talking about the release of the College Football 25 game from EA Sports. We'll both be playing it this week. I was just telling Nick before we started the show, I got to figure out how to use this PS5 that I bought my kid and haven't even used, but I'm going to use it for this, Nick.
That you sound washed, Zach. You sound washed when you say you don't know how to use the.
I don't get on it. I mean, I can now. To be fair, I play the PS5 with him and against him, but he sets it up, turns it on. He's just calls me over when the matchups are set and the game is about to start. So I've been spoiled in that sense.
Yeah, you're washed. You're washed. I remember you doing the same thing for my dad when I was a kid. Like, listen, don't touch the controller until I tell you to touch it. You're gonna mess up.
Don't sit down until I say you can sit down.
Yeah, just go away. Just leave until we're ready for you. But yeah, let's start with SC Media Days. I think we're being a little too friendly. Like invite Oklahoma and Texas to the best conference, and hey, we'll travel to you for media days. No. Make them go schlep it out to Birmingham. Like, what are we doing here? What do we got? I'm excited to go to Texas, be there. It's tough for me. I've been looking at All-Star Game tickets because the All-Star Game is there. Just a wild price tag to get into the All-Star Game in Dallas. But it'll be cool to be in Dallas.
I mean, can you not swing a credential being that there is a Florida alum playing in the game?
Listen, I tried to game the system. Could not game the system.
I hate to hear it.
Excited for SC Media Days. I used to be more excited for these. I mean, man, I can remember the first year getting dressed up like shirt and tie, going. And I think my first year was when Johnny Manziel was there. And that was an absolute media circus following him around in 2013. And yeah, I think it's a good lineup, interesting group that Billy brought. I think two of them make sense. And then the third on defense, could have maybe been a different guy, but Shamar James is a good representative for Florida. And yeah, like you said, Zach, it's certainly talking season. I think last year was Mark Stoops saying changing the climate is easy. You can just, change some jerseys, throw on your stupid glasses. Changing the culture is hard. And a clear shot to Shane Beamer, who then beat Mark Stoops on the football field and threw his glasses back on.
Savage.
So it's certainly a time where you can put your foot in your mouth if you try to.
Yeah, and there'll be that opportunity. Obviously, you know that there's going to be some reporters trying to tee these guys up. If you have not seen the schedule for SEC Media Days this week, it starts on Monday and runs through Thursday. LSU, Ole Miss, South Carolina, and Vanderbilt up on day one. On Tuesday, you've got Georgia, Missouri, Oklahoma, and Tennessee. Wednesday, you've got Alabama, Florida, Mississippi State, and Texas. And they close it out Thursday with Arkansas, Auburn, Kentucky, and Texas A&M. So Florida and Billy Napier and his three players will be up on Wednesday. As Nick mentioned, they will have two offensive players in the defender going to Dallas. That will be Graham Mertz and Montrell Johnson. Really no surprise there about those two guys getting the nod. As Nick said, they had some options defensively. They could have brought Jason Marshall, who went last year. They could have went maybe somewhere on the defensive line. Derek Wingo obviously would have been a great representative, but Shamar James is kind of the standout player. He's a junior now. They brought a junior last year, so I think that doesn't really factor in. But he's going to do a good job. He's really media savvy, and is a good quote, Nick. But from this slate and these coaches that I just went through, a lot of new coaches kind of getting in front of the media in the SEC for the first time. A lot of players obviously making their way too that I kind of stand out on this list. Before we get into Florida specifically, what are you most looking forward to this week from just the whole conference and some of these new coaches and obviously the two new institutions that have joined the league?
Yeah. I'm excited to see as you go through the list. Well, first off, just Texas. They have a ton of hype. Get to see Quinn Ewers, Steve Sarkisian there. I think that's probably the big one. When you look around these preseason polls, everyone is talking Texas and Georgia. I'm sure when we do the media poll, that'll probably be 1-2, pick 2 play in Atlanta. As a reminder, there's no divisions. There's no SEC West, SEC East. Just the top 2 teams out of 16 will go and play in the SEC championship game. So that's new.
Yep.
But yeah, I think that'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see how the new coaches, Jeff Lebby, Mike Elko, how they handle it. And then the rest of the day for Florida, you get Alabama, which is typically a crazy day in Birmingham with Nick Saban. Now there's no Nick Saban, no Birmingham. What's the Alabama contingent of fans look like that show up to media days without the governor of Alabama?
Yeah, because you don't have Nick Saban there either. Yeah.
I mean, listen, there is no coach more popular than a coach that's 0-0, which Kalen DeBoer is. But it's a pretty good group for Florida on Wednesday with Napier, DeBoer, Jeff Lebby, who's making his first trip as Mississippi State's head coach, and then, of course, Texas.
Yeah, Florida's first SEC road opponent of the season, first road opponent of the season. When they go to Mississippi State, I get to hear those cowbells for the first time. I'm looking forward to that, even though Nick says I'm not going to want to be on the field for that one. That right there, that first month of the season, you're going to find out a lot about this Florida football team. And I think that, Nick, there's going to be a range of questions that I think Billy gets, the players get. What are some of the kind of storylines that you expect to be out there a lot about Florida? What are some of the questions in the main media room that you think that Billy and these guys are going to get asked? And what do you feel like Florida's going to have to say?
Yeah, I actually started making a list. I'm going to write a story about this, but it's funny. The very first thing I thought of is he's going to get asked about Jaden Rashada. Like if I'm Florida's PR guy, and they have a new one. If I'm Florida's PR guy, I'm telling Billy Napier, like, hey, what's our Jaden Rashada answer? Because you're going to probably get asked about it in every single media room, and there's nothing new to update, so just have something to say. Graham Mertz and a couple of the Gators have said, we're going to surprise some people this year. So I think they'll get asked about that. Shamar James, his health, coming back from the injury. Really the health of a bunch of guys, Justice Boone, and some other guys who have been dinged up. Austin Barber was in a black jersey. Joey Slackerman's coming off of a biceps tear. Cam Waits with his injury history. The defensive improvement. Listen, the bar, Zach, not to be too negative, the bar to improve defensively is set low. You don't have to really even jump to get over it. Just a normal walking stride, and you can probably get over that bar that was set last year. And how much does Ron Roberts factor into that defensive improvement? What's the plan for DJ Lagway? No point in redshirting him. I know you're kind of in like a delicate position. I wrote about this earlier this week. There's no sense in redshirting him. Graham Mertz gives you the best opportunity probably right now to win games, but DJ's the future, and he needs to play more snaps than Graham against Samford. He needs to play on the road at Tennessee to feel what that's like, because you're going to play in those environments next year when you're the starter. So getting him not just mop-up duty, handing the ball off up 10 or down 20, whatever the case may be, late in games, get him meaningful reps. I go back and think Urban Meyer, and someone I'm sure in the comments will correct me if I'm wrong, but Urban Meyer would give like Tim Tebow a drive every game, early in the game, whether it's sometime in the first quarter or to start the second quarter. Hey, Tim, this is your drive as his freshman year. Just go and take a drive. Do stuff like that. You can manufacture successful situations for DJ, which then, no matter what the record is this year, can give you some hype and some optimism and some buzz around DJ Lagway going into 2025. And then I think the biggest thing, 1 billion coaches. You're allowed to have roughly 1 billion coaches on field, off field staff. Florida has been preparing for this. And I've said this a couple of times when Billy was filling out his staff before they even coached the game, a coach from a Big Ten school asked me, he's like, how did he do this? Like, I would love to have this many people helping me. And of course, Zach, Florida would never, as any other school, would never allow the off-field analysts and coaches to coach on the field because that would have been an NCAA violation. So this should be a big difference. But it'll be interesting to see. You get some guys can go on the road now. Like maybe David Decker goes on the road to recruit now instead of Billy G. So that'll be
Chad Lucas, another one too.
Yeah. Florida's had kind of this infrastructure in place, and now, I guess for lack of a better term, they had all the ammunition and they just took the safety off the gun, and they are now ready to use the infrastructure they've been putting together for 2.5 years now. Yeah,
it's something that's I think unique about this spot, Nick, that this is going to be obviously Graham Mertz's first time going. You guys just saw the highlights there of the guys that went last year. It didn't make sense for him to come to SEC Media Days in his first year because it was just he was a starter at that point, but hadn't played yet. We saw the move that DJ made at FSU, making his decision not to go to SEC or ACC Media Days. But now he goes as QB1 for Florida, and it is interesting because he is one of the biggest reasons why there's confidence in that building about this football team and about this offense and about what this season can be and about what his presence means for DJ Lagway and his future. But at the end of the day, as much as there is going to be, I think, some focus on Graham, there is going to be questions about DJ. And I think Napier and Graham know that going into it. Probably going to try to handle that with grace because, as Napier told us in the spring, Nick, he's already been asked 500 times what packages he's going to have for DJ and how he's going to play. Like, come on, people. Whatever he is ready to say or prepared to do, he is not going to reveal it on that stage in Dallas. Like, that's just not happening, especially with Miami being that first game. He's going to keep that close to the vest. He's not going to put any pressure on DJ. And I think that he wants to make it about Graham because I think that is one of the things that has him most excited about this football team. I think for the most part, Nick, we know what they're going to be on offense, save for really the interior and those guard spots and the depth there. Like I feel like everywhere else, I have a pretty good expectation of what Florida's going to be, minus the impact of Elijah Badger. That's still to be determined. But, man, on defense, like there's so many unknowns there from a coaching standpoint, from a personnel standpoint. They need to get better at tackling. We've been previewing the positions over at Gators Online, and one thing that I noted, Nick, writing about the linebacker spot and the fact that Florida lost Scooby Williams, who's now at Texas A&M, and he was their worst tackler, according to Pro Football Focus, among their starters on defense. You get a guy in Pup Howard, who we don't know if he's going to start yet, but I think you and I both think that that's going to happen. I didn't realize this. He had the highest tackle grade on South Carolina's team last year as a true freshman. He played in every game, too, so it wasn't like he got that off of some mop-up duty. He had an 88 tackle grade. That's really good. You don't see that. And, again, he's going to get more reps and more chances to miss tackles if he's a starter at Florida. But there's a lot of pieces here, Nick, that I think that you can point to that make them feel like they're going to be better on defense. I'm sure that that's something that they're going to have to go out there and sell in Dallas, though.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I don't know that they want to sell anything. They're it's almost like they're ready to just be like, yeah, no, that's fine. You can tell us we stink. That's fine. Tell us we stink. Tell us we can't tackle. Let us keep hearing that. Like I saw some fans at DJ Lagway had a quote that was something like, we feel like we're being disrespected. And some people were like, you just got here. They've earned this disrespect. Now you haven't done anything to earn it, but like this team has earned the disrespect we're giving them. But that's part of being in a locker room. And like, I go back to, I think it was when Alabama was playing Washington, and like in Alabama's meeting rooms, it was like, Alabama is overrated. And the quote was attributed to national media. And I'm like, what? How do you just attribute an actual quote to the general national media? And it's like, that's the kind of edge that these coaches are trying to get the players to feel. And they will make stuff up, completely make stuff up to get people. I remember when Georgia went undefeated and won a national championship, and they were like, nobody believed in us. It was like, what are you talking about? You were preseason number one. No one doubted you all year long, but that's the mentality. But that's the mentality that these guys get into. And when you get into a situation like this, a coach might almost want the media to tell him, Lane Kiffin calls any good press rat poison. You might want the media to be like, yeah, you guys stink. Hey, look, They picked us to finish 12th out of 16. You might want that kind of stuff more so than, hey, everyone's thinking that people didn't think Florida was going to be good, and now they're like a dark horse to win 9 games. You'd almost rather to go into this staff for sure would rather fly under the radar in that way.
I like your point, and I agree, Nick, because I do feel like they probably, and that's the one quote that Graham said this offseason that kind of got highlighted, is that they want to prove themselves right. And I don't necessarily know that they will go out there this week and try to sell people on that they're going to be better. And to be honest, Nick, I don't think that there's anything that they can say to convince people of that. So why try to do it? Take the questions, take the doubt, take the criticisms, or the however you get characterized as a football team, and let that fuel you going into the fall. I think that they know how they feel about their roster and their personnel. But to be honest, man, as much as we're ready for talking season, anything that gets said this week, as it pertains to Florida, it really doesn't matter, because man, week 1 against Miami, that's when they're going to have to do their talking. And we've wrote about it, we've talked about it, we're going to keep talking about it. But man, that is such a pivotal game. I think Paul Feimon came out and said, Nick, that he thought it was one of the biggest games, if not the biggest game of the season in the SEC. I don't know about that, but it's certainly one of the biggest games on Florida's schedule, and you're going to find out.
It's huge. It's huge, but I think you've got to kind of keep it in perspective. Losing to Miami after the way last season ended is going to be detrimental to the psyche and emotional well-being of the fan base, and
into the football team to an extent.
It's going to magnify every other, beating Miami, I think, gives you a clean slate. You beat Miami, and we forget that you lost the last 5 games last year. We forget that. That's
you are trying to end a win streak.
A losing streak.
Or losing streak, excuse me. Yeah.
I think beating Miami almost, all right, we can put 2023 in the back burner. That was 2023. If you lose to Miami, I think the fan base allows 2023 to come in and creep into this year, and the negativity that surrounded the team during that losing streak and in the offseason, that creeps into this year. Losing to a rival at home, starting the season off 0-1 at home, I think would be detrimental. I don't think it's bigger than Florida going on the road to Tennessee. Billy Napier's program is 2-10 away from Gainesville. Get a marquee win. beating a bad South Carolina team in Columbia is not a marquee win. That was a very big win at the time, but doesn't hold a candle to going up and beating Tennessee at Tennessee.
Even also the win at A&M, which was a big win at the time, but in hindsight,
A&M was really bad, really bad and banged up at the time.
Yeah.
Beating Kentucky, no coach in the history of the University of Florida football program has started 0-3 against the University of Kentucky. Billy Napier's 0-2. It has been since the 1940s, since a Gator class, freshmen to seniors, has not had a win against Kentucky. Don't make history this year. So to me, Tennessee, and this isn't even the back half of the schedule, which is, the main event. Those were two games right away that I think are bigger than Florida Miami in terms of their conference games. What is the history? Kentucky's not a rival, but keep losing to them, and they might be. But I think there are bigger games on the schedule. But going back to what I said, lose to Miami, and it's really preparing a landslide of just anger and disappointment, which I totally understand.
Yeah, and I mean, there's a lot there. I think also a win at Florida State. One, that'd be another road win, but two, because of the robbery impact. I think there's some significance to that. But circling back to Miami, if you win that first game, as great as that would be to kind of get a nice reset and some nice momentum going to start the year, they cannot get too high off of that. So it's interesting, the dynamics in play there, because if they lose that game, you got to just keep things from spiraling out of control or just doubt starting to creep in. Whereas if you win, as big of a deal as it will be, man, that SEC slate is coming, and you're gonna have to get ready for it. And obviously, Samford, they get that kind of break there before it starts, but they're going to get asked a lot too, Nick, about their schedule and about how they feel about it. That'll be interesting to see what comments that they've thought about of how they want to discuss it. I mean, we heard from the players and the staff this spring where they kind of seem to embrace the schedule. We've heard from Florida's athletic director about how he feels about it. But at the same time, I mean, I don't think that they're going out there and trying to create bulletin board material for anybody else. Or, I mean, look, as much as this is talking season, I go back to what I said earlier, there's not a lot that they can say to convince people or change people's minds or perceptions about them. They've got to say the right things. They got to have the right attitude. But, man, it's time to put in the work. And it's got to put in the work on SEC Media Days. But, again, that's going to happen right there on that practice field that you're looking at.
Yeah, and that I think Florida will start. OTA is you get a little bit of time where the coaches can be on the field with the players. That'll start shortly after they get back from Dallas. I do think it's interesting because we're not talking about Graham Mertz a lot, and he certainly. I mean, this time last year, myself included, a lot of the fan base was like, "What are you doing? This is the guy. You went to Wisconsin." And Graham Mertz played exceptionally better than what we expected him to. And there's a quote that he said in the spring that has stuck with me, Zach, that's I was learning my teammates' names at this time last year. And now when I was up in Ponte Vedra before Billy Napier's speaking engagement, he's like, Graham Mertz is one of the smartest quarterbacks I've ever been around. And I think we're not giving enough credence to, hey, how much difference does it make to have a 24-year-old quarterback who's in the second year of his system, sixth year of college football, leading your team? You get most of your offensive line back. You get the addition of Elijah Badger. Trey Wilson comes back for his sophomore year. You've got a bunch of other young receivers. A deep running back room with or without Trevor Etienne, and then a ton of pieces on defense. I think this is Florida's best record. Maybe the team is better than they were last year. And And then the caveat is always the schedule.
Yeah, it is. But as you commented before, Nick, and it's so true. Like it's not going to get any easier in 2025. Like it's going to be another tough slate again, and you're not going to have a 24-year-old quarterback kind of leading your team. You're going to have a sophomore, DJ Lagway. We'll see how much he gets to play this year, but it is going to be a little bit of a different dynamic because one factor with this team that is different, and we heard a lot last year, is how young they were and the amount of freshmen that they're playing. Well, they're not young this year. And they have a lot of guys that are seniors and redshirt juniors, and this could be their last season in a Florida uniform. So, like, that's something that's interesting to consider is the chance that Florida has to lean on that leadership and to lean on that veteran presence that might not be there in the same light next season. Now, maybe you're more talented. Maybe, you have that youth movement because of the way that they've recruited. That makes you better overall. But you do have some significant senior leadership on this team that you can't just find anywhere. From the Graham Mertzes to the Asa Turners, the Joey Slackmans, like Derek Wingos. These are like the prime example of what you want in terms of somebody like that to go through this slate. So when you do take a loss and when things are not going well, because that is going to happen at some point during the season, you need guys to galvanize that locker room and keep heads up and keep the locker room from splitting apart. And those names that I just mentioned are some of the guys that are going to help hold that together.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I keep going back to that DJ Lagway when you mentioned 2025. Like the players they added specifically through the transfer portal that are going to help you this year on defense: DJ Douglas, Asa Turner, Traquez Bridges. Those guys are 1-year rentals.
Yeah, Pup Howard will be back, but other than that, every
Joey Slackman 1-year rental.
Yep,
it's Cam Jackson's last year. There's
Derek
a lot
Wingos
of guys.
Last year, Jason Marshall's last year.
Yeah, there's a lot of guys that you're going to count on this year.
Devin Moore could turn pro after this.
That's
season.
Wild. Yeah, and it's right, but that's wild. I feel like we've seen Devin Moore play for 38 minutes.
Every time he plays, though, he's really good.
Yeah. Just the best ability is availability. But that's, and I think that's probably why what we were just talking about, why I keep going back to you have to get DJ Lagway meaningful snaps. You have to build hype around him. It's not just that. It's also recruiting. Talking to some of these guys, reading Corey and Keith's stories and hearing these quotes, like these 17-year-old kids who are coming to visit Florida, they're like, I got to talk to DJ Lagway today. Like excited to be around DJ Lagway.
Yeah, well, that's what happens when you're in a Gatorade commercial.
Yeah, well, like Florida's class right now is bad, and there's probably like the recruiting class is not where it needs to be. Sitting here in the middle of July, and Graham Mertz has won me over. I think he's won a lot of people over. I don't need him talking to a freshman receiver who comes on a campus. This guy's never going to throw you a ball.
Yeah,
never going to throw you a pass.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. A rising senior or a senior on a visit, a senior receiver on a visit. I don't need them having any time with Graham. If they want to see Graham, sure, cool, go ahead. But you need to be talking to DJ Lagway.
Probably the only guy that really would want to pick his brain would be Will Griffin.
Yeah.
But everybody else is like, can I meet with DJ?
Yes.
Can I get a picture with DJ?
You absolutely can. DJ, don't worry about class today. It's a big recruiting weekend.
How about DJ wanting to get a picture with Cam Newton and introduce himself?
I know who you are.
I know who you are. Do you got time? He's coming to ask Cam if he has time. Cam's like, man, do you got time to talk to me?
That's funny because I saw a bunch of people, probably fans of other teams, being like, yeah, DJ Lagway's small. I feel like people just haven't been around Cam. Cam's an alien. He's 6'6", 250. Like Cam is gigantic.
Yeah.
There was a picture of me standing next to Felipe Franks, and someone was like, "Man, Nick's a midget," and I'm like, "He's 6'5". I'm 5'10".
No,
He is
no,
6'5".
he's 6'6". He's 6'6".
Yeah. Yeah. So
Yeah.
that's part of it too, is like we take for granted, we're around the guys a lot. I remember Edgar Thompson was freaking out. We were at in Tallahassee, and Dante Fowler, who was what, 6'3", 6'4", 260 in college, was
Yep.
like running and in the receivers line, just like jumping and catching balls with one hand. He's like, "How's he doing that?" I'm like, "These guys are unbelievable athletes." He's like, "Yeah, but he's a defensive lineman." I'm like, "Yeah, he's just an unbelievable athlete." DJ's a big boy. Cam's just gigantic.
Yeah. Cam's he's from another planet. So
The Monstar.
Well, speaking of, this kind of leads us right into our next segue. And, before I do that, definitely want to give a shout out to our sponsors who make this show possible. But it's interesting, Nick, that we, kind of talking about DJ, and he was also in the news or in the conversation this week for something else. And that kind of leads us into our talk about the game that's coming out. But before we do that, I want to give a shout out to myperfectfranchise.net. If you're ready to leave the corporate rat race for the American dream, looking for a side hustle while working your current job, wanting to diversify, build wealth, and or leave a legacy, Andy can help. He's a franchise consultant as well as a franchise owner, and helps people find franchises that fit their skill sets, financial requirements, time to commit, and more. His services are 100% free, and he's here to help if you have any questions about business ownership. You can learn more and contact Andy anytime at myperfectfranchise.net, or calling or texting him at 404-973-9901. Well, the EA Sports College Football 25 is set to release this week. Looks like some streamers have already got their hands on it as we record this show to you on Wednesday, July 13th. But it'll be rolling out this week. And a lot of Florida fans, I imagine, will get to play with their favorite players, i.e. DJ Lagway. I can only imagine how many people are going to start him in their dynasty mode. Poor Graham, man. We saw him this week. Shout out to Silk, and his Flow Factory podcast had Channing Crowder on, and Channing Crowder's like beating the table to start DJ Lagway week 1 against Miami. That's not happening. That's just, I think, Channing being a little lighthearted, but he does want to see DJ play. But you can see it in this game now coming out this week, because you can create your own dynasty and your own depth chart and play whoever you want to, Nick.
Yeah. I think there's sorry, Graham. I think there's going to be a lot of Graham Mertz getting benched across Gator Nation when they're holding Xbox and PS5 controllers. If the game is like the rest of the franchise, having a mobile quarterback is a game changer.
Oh, yeah.
And I think DJ Lagway is going to be a lot of fun to play with in terms of video game. He's got 88 speed, 85 acceleration, 90 agility. That's going to be fun to play with. And
we already got a glimpse of that this week, correct, Nick? We got a streamer here.
Well, that, here is
that got his hands on this game, and we can already watch the game.
This is Florida Miami.
Florida Miami week 1. And if you guys are listening to this, we are if you watch it on YouTube, you can get a glimpse of this for the folks that aren't going to get this game till the end of the week. But Florida Miami, a streamer, is kind of showing him playing this matchup, and like we were just alluding to, he started DJ Lagway, if you can believe it, in this game, like Channing Crowder requested. And I mean, look, I'm glad that this game is here. All jokes aside, like the fact that it's back, the fact that players are getting paid from it. Look, it's making me dust off the old video game habits that I had as a kid, and all the hours that I spent playing that game. Probably won't be as hard on it as hard as I was back then, but I'm definitely going to have a dynasty mode going and have fun creating a new conference. And then there's all kind of cool stuff that you can do with this game, Nick.
Yeah, I'm going to get this. I'm going to get this little DJ Lagway clip in here.
Yeah,
this is the kind of speed that we're talking about. Nothing really open, and there you go, just gone.
I imagine just going to see a lot of that from Florida fans this summer and fall.
Yeah, it's been a long time coming, man. I mean, these games used to be I would get this, and then Madden would come out like a month later, and you play Madden for a little bit. But I would always go back to college football with Road to Glory, with Dynasties. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. They put a lot of I watched an hour stream about Road to Glory. That's when you create a player, pick your school, start as a freshman. You can start as a 2, 3, 4, or 5-star to kind of create your story. But they bring in NIL, Zach. They bring in your GPA, going to events, building a brand. You can choose to go to a party, and that might affect your GPA, and your coach is trusting you. They added a lot of real-life decisions to the game. I think a lot of stuff that, we wished. I think they went back. They had a decade, man. The last one came out in 2013, 14. So they've had a decade to go through Reddit, go through old tweets. What did people really want in this game? How do we implement that? And it looks like they did. So I'm looking forward to getting my hands on this game. I think 4 p.m. Eastern Monday. If you bought the deluxe edition, they're flipping the switch, and you can start your franchise. And I think we're going to have Corey Bender challenging Gators Online members.
Let's go, CB
in a tournament. So if you are listening to this, you can use code UF1, get 2 months of access for $1. Do that before Monday, and you can get the chance to beat our resident gamer at Gators Online, Corey Bender.
That's right. CB is he gets down on the sticks. And that's cool that we can obviously do that. And look, man, just seeing some of the early things that I've saw from ratings and rankings and where they kind of put these teams, it looks like EA Sports, and again, it's not surprising because I read that they use a lot of Pro Football Focus grades to kind of determine where they were going to rate players and teams, but they're pretty high on Florida. They have as a top 25 team, no? I saw the rankings that came out. They had them as a top 25. Now, I think that was their power rankings, though, not they won't be number 25 in the game, but they had them as a top 25 team power rankings. They had surprisingly, Nick, they were higher on their offense or their defense rather than their offense. And then, they didn't have anything guys in the top 100 in terms of national rankings, but again, if they're going off of the PFF grades, and then just based on some of the graphics that they've already released and where they put Florida, I don't think Florida's going to be bad on this game. And if you're going to be playing with the Gators and having a dynasty or going against other guys, I think that you can make it work with the Gators. I mean, they're not going to be playing like a team that went 5-7 the year before.
No, I don't think so. Some notable Gator rankings. Jason Marshall's an 89. Montrell Johnson is an 87. Jake Slaughter, 87. Eugene Wilson, 86. Elijah Badger, 85. Shamar James and Graham Mertz, both 84. Cormani McClain, an 82. Cam Jackson and freshman LJ McCray ranked an 80.
Okay. So what was Lagway?
He wasn't on that list. I'm scrolling through this streamer to see.
I saw
here's some more notable grades. Lagway's not in this, but Asa Turner, Tyreek Sapper, 84s. Devin Moore's an 83. Kelby Collins in 82, Austin Barber's in 80, Desmond Watson 79, Miles Graham, your guy, 78. And then, I mean, the wide receiver room is interesting. Florida getting some speed love here. Marcus Burke's a 92 speed, 77 overall. Aiden Mizell's a 96 speed, 78 overall. Eugene Wilson comes in with a 93 speed, 97 acceleration, 95 agility.
All right.
Showing you that Kadarius Toney, no ACLs, movement he's got. I'm excited. This is and I'm excited to see what kind of weird uniform combinations come up. I remember when I was, 12 years old playing this game, Florida would be wearing orange helmets, blue, like orange, blue, orange. You've gotten some more. Like, did they add the blue helmets, the throwback, white helmet?
Yeah. How many they wore at Tennessee?
How many different uniform combinations? I saw a screenshot that showed the black jerseys in it, but you can also wear a black jersey, green or orange or black jersey, orange helmet, blue pants. Like you can kind of just mix and match and do whatever you want with these games. And I'm sure it'll make some cursed looking screenshots.
Well, I tell you what, Nick, between SEC Media Days and EA Sports College Football 25, both happening this coming week. I mean, what a better way to get you ready for the football season and just getting gear for this fall. It's been we've been hurting not having sports for the last few weeks ever since the Florida baseball season ended. And, obviously it's been great for Nick and I to get some downtime, but we know that once mid-July hits, SEC Media Days arrives, and now this game is out, football is almost here. So we are looking forward to the 2024 season. We're looking forward to another year of covering this Florida football team for you guys. And as Nick said, he teased it earlier, but if you are not subscribed to Gators Online for what we have coming up this month, make sure that you take advantage of that promo code UF1. This is only exclusively for the listeners of the Gators Online show and the Geo Recruiting Show. You can get 2 months of premium access for just $1. Play Corey Bender in our tournament for the new game, like Nick said, but also all of his coverage from Dallas. Nick will be there for us this coming week. Everything that's coming up on the recruiting front, more decisions to come. You guys will be the first to know all the intel that we have at Gators Online. So make sure that you get in the door. And Nick, I know that you will be in the door in Dallas, man. Hope you have a good trip.
I'm wondering if I need to pack my Xbox with me. And just sit in the hotel playing it. To be determined. I'll let you guys know.
Well, have a good time. You've got me considering what I need to do to get that $90 purchase so I can enjoy it on Monday myself. I'm not trying to wait. And that way, if I get it in enough time, then I won't have to worry about being on my own to try and figure out how to play the game since I'm so washed. All right, well, good stuff. We'll see you guys next week after Nick gets back from Dallas. Let you know what we learned about the Gators at SEC Media Days and what we think about this new EA Sports college football game. For Nick Del Torre, I'm Zach Abolverdi. We'll see you guys next time.